The smell of wet soil and fresh-cut grass usually brought me peace. That morning, however, my nose picked up another familiar scent: exhaust fumes. The calm of Saturday morning shattered under the snarling buzz of a dirt bike engine ripping through the neighborhood air. I walked outside with my coffee in hand, ready to enjoy the cool breeze and inspect my rose bushes. But I froze at the edge of my porch. Right in the middle of my perfectly manicured front lawn sat an orange dirt bike, still dripping mud, its tires carving ugly black trenches into the grass I had nurtured like a child for 3 years. Leaning against the handlebars stood Jake, the 17-year-old son of Karen Martinez, our homeowners association president. His arms were folded, expression smug, like someone who knew he could get away with just about anything. That smirk of his, so self-assured, so irritatingly untouchable, made my blood boil. "What's the problem, mister?" he called out with a smirk that oozed entitlement. "My mom runs the HOA. What are you going to do about it?" I'd lived in Willowbrook Estates for 5 years and never once made waves. I obeyed every single homeowners association rule like they were commandments. My house was painted in regulation-approved hues. My mailbox was exactly to spec, and my lawn was cut and edged like it belonged on a golf course. I was the neighbor who paid dues early, read the 57-page HOA handbook front to back, and never parked more than 12 inches from the curb. Karen Martinez, the woman who ruled the HOA with a micromanager's eye, had served as president for 3 grueling years. She measured grass with a ruler and slapped fines on residents for minor decor violations or trash bins put out 20 minutes early. Her son Jake had developed a reputation for being a menace. He rode his dirt bike across the walking trails, through common areas, and once did donuts near the playground, but until now, he'd never dared to cross into someone's yard. "You need to get your bike off my property right now," I said, doing my best to sound calm, though my knuckles whitened around the coffee mug. "You're damaging my grass." Jake let out a harsh laugh. "It's just grass, dude. Chill out. My mom's the one who writes the rules, not you." Then he kicked at a rut in the lawn, making it deeper, and added, "Maybe you should be more worried about the violation notice for your trash cans last week." That afternoon, I sat down at my desk and composed a detailed, official complaint to the HOA board. I included time-stamped photos of the damage and documented everything: the time Jake showed up, the precise location of the tire tracks, the size and depth of each one. I followed the proper protocol, uploading everything through the online portal, expecting at the very least a formal acknowledgement. The next morning, Karen's reply hit my inbox like a slap. "Dear Mr. Thompson," it began. "After reviewing your complaint regarding my son's alleged actions on your property, I find these accusations to be unfounded and potentially libelous. Moving forward, I advise you to exercise extreme caution when making such statements about board members' families. This kind of behavior will not be tolerated. Perhaps you should focus on maintaining your own compliance with HOA standards." Signed with an air of smug superiority, Karen Martinez, HOA president. What followed over the next 3 days was blatant escalation. Jake began treating my lawn like his personal parking spot. Every morning, I'd wake to find new tire marks, fresh patches of ruined sod, and occasionally boot prints around my flower beds. On Wednesday, he sat on the bike just outside my kitchen window and revved the engine for nearly a minute while I tried to eat breakfast in peace, the sound rattling the dishes in my cabinets. Thursday afternoon, I tried confronting him again. "Jake, this needs to stop. You're ruining my lawn. It's going to take hundreds of dollars to fix." He blinked at me with mock innocence, then tilted his head. "Hundreds of dollars," he said with a laugh. "If you weren't such a cheapskate, maybe you could afford better grass. My mom says you're a drama queen, always stirring up problems." That night, I reached my breaking point. I drove to the electronics store and bought a small, weatherproof security camera. After testing it, I mounted it discreetly near my front window, angled perfectly to capture the entire lawn. If Karen wanted to ignore my complaints, I'd give her something she couldn't brush off: cold, hard footage. The camera paid for itself. The next day, Friday afternoon, Jake rolled up with two of his buddies. For almost an hour, they used my lawn like it was a dirt track. Wheelies, spinouts, donuts, all accompanied by raucous laughter and jeers pointed at my house. Jake executed a dramatic skid across the center of the lawn, tore up a full patch of grass, and then stood on the bike seat to take a sarcastic bow in the direction of my front door. I transferred the footage to my computer and burned several copies to disk, then backed it up to the cloud. The video was crystal clear, Jake and his friends vandalizing my yard with grinning malice. I knew sending it to Karen wouldn't make a difference, so I skipped the HOA entirely. Saturday morning, I called the non-emergency line for the local police department and filed a formal report. The officer on the other end, Sergeant Rodriguez, actually seemed interested. "We've had a few calls about this kid, minor stuff, but if you've got video, that changes everything." Within 2 hours, a police cruiser pulled into my driveway. Sergeant Rodriguez and another officer, Officer Kim, stepped out, both carrying notepads and wearing calm, no-nonsense expressions. I played the footage for them on my laptop. Their faces grew more serious as the video continued. "This is clear property damage," Officer Kim said. "And since he's been warned before, we can pursue criminal mischief charges." Almost on cue, the familiar roar of Jake's dirt bike echoed from the other end of the street. He came flying down the road, oblivious to the patrol car in my driveway. When he finally noticed the officers, his face faltered, and he tried to slow down, but Sergeant Rodriguez stepped out into the street and flagged him down. "Jake Martinez," he called. Jake looked like a deer in headlights. "Yeah, that's me," he said slowly, his voice small. "We need to talk to you about property damage and criminal trespass," Officer Kim said, removing her handcuffs. Jake didn't resist. He just stood there, frozen, as she cuffed him and read his rights. Neighbors started emerging from their homes, drawn by the flashing lights. Mrs. Chen stood on her porch, one hand covering her mouth. The Johnsons came out with lawn chairs, like they were watching a live show. Then came Karen, storming down the sidewalk in her bathrobe and slippers, red-faced and frantic. "What are you doing to my son?" she screamed. "You can't arrest him. I'm the HOA president. I know my rights." Sergeant Rodriguez didn't flinch. "Ma'am, your son is being arrested for criminal mischief and trespass. Your HOA role doesn't give him immunity from criminal law." Karen was livid. "This is a setup. That man," she pointed at me, "has been targeting us for weeks. You should be arresting him." Officer Kim shut the cruiser door with Jake inside and turned to Karen. "We have video of your son repeatedly damaging private property. If you continue interfering, you may be charged with obstruction of justice." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came. The charges ended up including over $800 in damage. Jake was officially charged with criminal mischief in the 3rd degree and criminal trespass in the 2nd. Karen hired a pricey attorney, but it was useless. Jake ended up taking a deal: 40 hours of community service, 18 months probation, and full restitution for the lawn damage. The final twist came 2 weeks later at an emergency HOA board meeting. Word of Jake's arrest had spread fast, and the community center was packed with residents tired of Karen's heavy-handed rule. Several board members had brought printed copies of the police report and photos from the incident. Patricia Wells stood up. "This reflects poorly on all of us. We can't have a president who enforces rules on everyone else while ignoring them in her own household." Karen tried to argue. She accused me of staging everything. She claimed Jake was innocent, that I'd edited the video, but her voice cracked, and no one believed her. The board vote was unanimous. Even Mike Foster, her longtime ally, sided with the others. Karen's face turned crimson. Her chair toppled as she jumped to her feet. "You'll all regret this," she shouted. "I'll sue every one of you. This isn't over." But everyone could see the desperation in her eyes. There was no lawsuit. Karen quietly moved out of Willowbrook Estates 3 months later, and for the first time in years, the neighborhood felt quiet again, peaceful, and finally free.